Yesterday we were talking about this, how we come to be aware of the mind and body. We explained it to some extent, but not fully. How this mind and body arise almost simultaneously, and then also these separately. There is a noting mind and this is a noted object. Coming to the knowledge of the discernment of mind and body, this is one stage of insight knowledge with the practice. Otherwise, you will cling to the causelessness, not believing in the conditionality of mind and body, not being able to realize the cause-effect linkage, not clear about the cause and effect linkage. Even then you will be subject to what is known as sammoha, intense delusion, throughout your whole life. We have had this experience in the past, and we are having this in the present, and we'll be having this sammoha, intense delusion, in the future. If there is moha, there will be doubt, uncertainty. From this doubt, you'll be led to the wrong, distorted consciousness. Then, however much you explain, you'll never be able to take you out of the view of this, out of the doubts. You'll be able to overcome this doubt, however much you explained. You'll be holding on to the view of Jiva Atta, Parama Atta, individual self or soul, and supreme self or soul. And you will be holding on to this, to the view of these existences, unless you practice. Only with the practice you will be able to overcome the view of Jiva Atta and Parama Atta, individual self or soul and supreme self or soul, by being able to discern mind and body. Then you will be free of the view of Atta, Atta Deity, or view of Jiva Atta, individual self or soul, on a part-time basis, that is in the course of the practice, but not totally. You'll be able to uproot this view of Atta only when you attain the first stage of holiness, Sotapanna, or first path. There will be doubt about the cause and effect, that things arise without cause, the view of causelessness. Even if you take that things arise due to cause, you will not be able to understand the relevancy of cause and effect. You will be holding on to irrelevancy of cause and effect, holding on to the existence or view of Parama Atta, supreme self or soul, which is causing everything. This is a dangerous view. Then you'll be depending on a lot on Jiva Atta, individual self or soul, and also on Parama Atta, putting everything down on this supreme self or soul, that it is causing everything. There will be too much dependence. The reason is that good or bad things are created by this omnipotent being, and things are happening in accordance with its wishes. That is the view which will be held by those who are addicted to such views. Put everything down to Parama Atta, that Parama Atta is doing everything, so that one does not depend upon one's ability, and with just faith just believing something, you can achieve anything, not depending on your ability. Not understanding that there will be advantage. You can only get benefit by depending on your ability. Because now you are putting everything down to the Paramattha. That Paramattha is doing everything. And just believing something, you will achieve anything. You will fulfill your wishes, that sort of thing. Depending on Paramattha, if Paramattha says you die, then you die. If Paramattha says you live, then you live. So you are doing in accordance with the wishes and the command of Paramattha. That's the view held by those people who are addicted to wrong views. So there will be no dependence on one's ability, and this way your knowledge will become blunt, not sharp. Therefore today we shall discuss about the cause and effect linkage as regards the mind and body. After being able to discern mind and body, we come to the conditionality of this mind and body and their relevancy. So long as you are not able to discern mind and body, you'll be holding on to the view of jiva atta, individual self or soul. And then, so long as you are not able to discern the cause and effect, you'll be holding on to the causeless view of causelessness, and then the irrelevant cause, irrelevant effect. Not knowing the truth, you are holding on to such views. You become addicted to such views. Then, if you are able to practice this mindfulness and being able to discern mind and body, then you are able to cultivate knowledge as regards the discernment of mind and body, and then come to know the cause and effect relationship. And such a knowledge is known as Vipassana, knowledge of the contemplation of the realities. Yatha means as it is, as it happens, as it exists, or realities. That there are this mind and body, and then they arise due to cause. They are realizable through experience, directly experienced, direct view of reality. That is what is meant by this Yatha Bhuta. Knowing as they are, as they exist, as they happen. Such as Buddha, as it is, as it arises. As you are noting the immediately arising mind and body objects, with the practice of Satipatthana and sustaining your mindfulness and cultivating mindfulness, you are able to anchor your noting mind on the object noted, just deepening your concentration. Then you come to discern mind and body. And knowing, contemplating, becoming aware of these mind and body as they arise, as they happen, as they exist, is what is meant by this Yatha Bhuta Vipassana Jnana. And the discernment of mind, the cause and effect, coming to understand the conditionality, also comes under this knowledge, Yatha Bhuta Vipassana Jnana. So long as you don't cultivate this inside knowledge, you will be subject to this samoha binivisa as a reward, meaning an intense delusion. When you are deluded, you become hazy in your awareness, and your knowledge is not clear cut. Your awareness is not clear cut, because you are not able to be mindful of the realities as they exist. You become deluded. In other words, it's synonymous with forgetting, because it's not clear cut. Just like when the moon and the stars are covered up by the clouds at night, it becomes hazy, although you may see some light. So also these objects will become hazy to you and not so obvious. And then also, if you are not mindful, you will not be aware. Even if you are mindful, you become hazy. Because if you are not mindful, if you are not aware, then this awareness leads to haziness, being shrouded with darkness, shrouded in darkness. You become deluded, not being able to see things in a clear-cut manner. And it's you become hazy, not being able to see things clearly. And it has been with you happening all along your lifetimes. This intensely, thickly, powerfully. Hence this samoha, vinivisa. And such thing, when you are covered up, shrouded in darkness like this, then you are not sure of whether this is true or not. Uncertainty, doubts will arise. Whether is it nama, that the noting mind, is it nama, or is it the one noted is it rupa? You're not sure about that. Or do they arise without any cause? Or even if there's a cause or causes, are they relevant? Are they arising irrelevantly? So you'll not be aware of this linkage of cause and effect, and the linkage of relevancy, relevant linkage of cause and effect. Not being able to come to a direct experience with your own practice. So, and then you come to believe in the existence of the omnipotent being, which is creating all these things. And then you'll not be able to, you'll be doubtful and not be able to see things surely. This is moha, delusion, synonymous with ignorance. Ignorance can be of two kinds: simple unknowing and knowing wrongly, or misconception or misperception, not being able to differentiate one from another. So in this way you have two kinds of ignorance, because there is no experiential knowledge. You become doubtful and uncertain. So, but if you are sort of persuaded into believing something by some eloquent orator giving you wrong lead, then you may be believing wrongly. There will be wrong belief, wrong views. Then there will be distorted consciousness. From doubt, you become distorted in your consciousness, so that you have this intense delusion, abhinivesa, as regards the existence of jiva atta, individual self or soul, or parama atta, supreme self or soul. And this abhinivesa, it is piercing, penetrating you, going deep down into your heart. So long as you are not able to cultivate this knowledge, namely the Yata Buddha Vipassana Jnana, knowledge of the realities, then not being able to note and become aware of the mind and body and the cause and effect relationship as they exist, then this intense delusion, samoha abhinivesa, will arise. You will go deep down into your mind or heart and become doubtful and uncertain. From doubts, your consciousness will become distorted, and that is set to pierce down, deep down into your heart, into your mind. So, when you are able to become aware of this mind and body and cause effect relationship with the practice, with the mantra of Satipatthana, then once you are able to discern mind and body, you overcome this view of individual self or soul, jiva atta. You can only uproot this view only when you attain the first stage of sanctity. And as for this cause and effect, ahetuka, causeless, you have to come to understand that there are causes with the practice. And then this view of Parama-Atta, Supreme Self or Soul, you will only understand, you will only be able to overcome this view with the practice of mindfulness. That is, becoming aware of the cause and effect relationship, the conditionality, and the relevancy of this linkage. Then you'll be free of this view of the existence of Supreme Being. You'll be totally free or permanently free. You'll be able to uproot this view only when you realize the first path of consciousness. Until then, you will not be free from that. In order to overcome this doubt, finally, before you come to attain the first path consciousness, you do it in advance as a prerequisite, at least to overcome such distorted views on a part-time basis, that is, in the course of the practice. And to do that, to overcome these such views, distorted views on a part-time basis, yogis are practicing in this way. In the Visuddhimagga, path to purity or path of purification is said, given this example, as taken as believed or as given by these past, the ancients, people of the old days, and our practice, they discover this and they explain this about the cause and effect, how the events arise when all the conditions are available, when the conditions are complete. Or when there are enough sufficient conditions, there will arise something will happen in accordance with this condition. As given, all the mentalities given are phassa, contact, vedana, feeling, sanya, perception, chirana, volition, and of course consciousness, knowing, mind. So this, all these things are the leader here is phassa, the contact. Such is the example given. At the moment of seeing, these mentalities are most obvious. Very obvious, and the most obvious mentality is phassa, contact. Then comes feeling, then the seeing consciousness. Feeling and seeing consciousness. Contact, feeling and consciousness. These things are most obvious. So this consciousness, seeing thing, does not arise from just the eye alone, nor from the visible object, nor from the eye, nor from between the eye and the visible object. Only when the relevant conditions are fulfilled, that is the fulfillment of the Sankata Dhammas, mind, body, condition, mind, psychophysical phenomena, and because of the conditions, when the conditions are fulfilled, these things arise. For example, when you beat a drum, there's a drum, and the beating stick, and the beater beats the drum and gives the noise comes out. The noise of the beating of the drum comes out. Now, where does it come from? Where does the sound comes from? Does it come from the face of the drum, or from inside, or from the stick? So one may think. In fact, only only when the conditions are fulfilled, relevant conditions are fulfilled. In this case, the drum, the stick, and the beating. Then, when the three conditions are fulfilled, the sound comes out. The drum sound, the sound of the drum comes out. So too with the seeing consciousness. With the eye and the visible object, there are these conditions which are necessary conditions, such as the eye or eye sensitivity, Then another condition is the visible object or form to be seen, and then there must be enough light. If there's darkness, you will not be able to see. There must be enough light so that you can see the visible object. And then mental advertence, attention. You must pay attention. If you don't pay attention, you will not see. So these are the conditions which have to be fulfilled in order to give rise to seeing consciousness. And like the case of this drum, where does the sound comes from? Initially there is no such thing as sound hiding anywhere. Only when the three conditions are fulfilled, the sound of the drum comes out. Not from just the drum itself, not from the stick, or not from between the drum and the stick. Only when three things are fulfilled, there's this sound of the drum. So too with the seeing consciousness, as we have explained again, the eye sensitivity, the visible object, the form, and the enough light, and mental advertence or attention. All these conditions must be fulfilled. Then only there will be this seeing consciousness. And this seeing consciousness cannot be, is not due to any omnipotent being or unseen being or supreme being. When these conditions are fulfilled, no supreme being can deter the arising of seeing consciousness, nor can the supreme being cause the seeing consciousness if these conditions are not fulfilled. Therefore, you note at the moment of seeing, in order to at the moment of seeing, only when the relevant conditions are fulfilled, you are able to see things, seeing consciousness arise. So that this is the conditionality of a phenomena, and also in this conditionality, it has to be relevant. And knowing the condition, and discovering the condition of the objects, of the incidents, then you overcome the view of causelessness, ahetuka deity, the view of causelessness. And then the relevant cause giving rise to relevant effect. There's no omnipotent being creating this. You will not find any unseen supreme being behind that, and because there is no such thing in the beginning either. So coming to the awareness of this linkage of the cause and effect and the relevancy of this linkage is what we call the Yathabhuta Vipassana Jnana, knowledge of the contemplation of realities. The seeing consciousness, which is a mentality, and so on, will only arise or happen when the objects, the conditioning objects are fulfilled. Not every time these conditions are fulfilled. There must be the supporting causes, such as the eye and the visible, you see the visible object, and also there must be this attention. Without all these things, no seeing consciousness will arise. So we conclude that only when the relevant conditions are fulfilled, there will happen the seeing consciousness. Is quite obvious. And the Abhidhamma is given this example, how to ignite piece of paper with the magnifying glass. When you put a piece of paper under the magnifying glass and focus this sunlight or sun's rays, then the paper will ignite, the fire, the flame will come out. So we need the glass, magnifying glass, the paper and the sunlight or sun's rays to give rise to this ignition. If you keep it for some time, enough time, then there will be smoke, and then the fire, the paper will burn. But where does this flame come from? Does it come from just the paper? No, not just from paper. Does it come from the magnifying glass alone? Not so. Does it come from the sun's rays or sunlight? Not so. You have to have all these conditions fulfilled, relevant conditions fulfilled, namely the magnifying glass, the sunlight and the paper. Then there will be this ignition. The flame will come out. So who is the creator in this case? There's no creator, and there are many things which happen without any creator, like this case of paper burning or igniting with the sunglass, with the magnifying glass and the sun. Only when these three things are conditioned, fulfilled. So such is the conditionality of objects, of things, and even with the conditionality it must be relevant. And even with just ordinary reflection, you can come to understand that you need these relevant conditions fulfilled in order to have something to take place. Now when you become aware of this cause-effect and the relevancy of cause and effect, with the practice of Satipatthana, you become more clear. So you are bound to see this cause and effect relationship at the moment of its rising, such as the moment of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. If you are able to see at the moment of arising, if you are able to be mindful at the moment of arising, then you come to see that only when these conditions are fulfilled, there arises this mind and body. And there's no such thing as person, being, individual, man, woman, you, I, especially no atta, no self or soul. Only this mind and body and cause effect. So, and also you come to see the cause effect relationship of mind and body. Mind and body are mutually conditioned, and then they are in a conditioned in a relevant way, like this case of seeing consciousness. You need all these conditions fulfilled, like the eye or eye sensitivity. Your eye must be sensitive. If your eye is not sensitive, then you won't be able to see. So eye must be sensitive, there must be the visible object, and then the light and the advertence or attention. When you come to become aware of this cause and effect, then you will overcome this view of causelessness and the relevancy of cause and effect in the course of the practice. As you go on activating mindfulness, you come to see the linkage very clearly. And an example that we gave some time ago, when you are sitting, at the moment of sitting, while you're going to sit, there is first the intention to sit. Intention to sit takes place. It takes place in stages, followed by actual sitting. The sitting is materiality. The intention is the cause, its mentality, and the actual sitting is the effect, which is the materiality, Rupa. So they are not causeless. They arise in stages. With the stages of intention to sit, there comes about this stages of sitting process, the body sinking down gradually. And because of the intention, there is sitting. Because of the intention to sit, there arises this sitting process, not standing process or walking process or other lying process. And so they are not causeless. And in the process of standing, sitting, there's always intention, which is the cause, and the effect, which is the materiality, the actual sitting or standing process. So only there are this conditionality, cause and effect process, and nothing else. It is not causeless. there's no omnipotent being, unseen being creating the sitting or standing or walking. So what happens is this cause and effect relationship, cause and effect process, and you become aware of it at the moment of its rising, happening, with the practice of Satipatthana, coming to understand this cause and effect process and its relevancy. You become clear of it as much as you are able to activate mindfulness at the moment of its arising. And such insight knowledge is known as Pachaya Parikha Jnana or Pachaya Vavutana Jnana. And then with the continued practice of mindfulness, you become very clear or able to discern that this is the cause and this is the effect. And then there's this another causative agent, namely karma actions, past and present. And if we have to explain that, it will be very elaborate. How this senses, like eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, adhyavatu, heart base, and all these things come into existence. All these things happen due to past karma, past action, which scientists were not able to find a reason for this. For this, cannot find. They admit that all these things in every being, there are these senses, organs, sense organs, eye, ear, nose, and all that. They are happening in a very proportionate manner, properly placed. That's all they can say. Why it happens, why they happen like this, why they exist like this, cannot be found out. And more so about the quality, the efficiency and quality of these sense organs. It is obvious that these are the result of the past karma actions, which cannot be observed, understood through the direct experience at the present time, Pachaka Jnana. It is due to the past mind-body process, especially the physical process. There are these, even at the present time, you can see for yourself these conditioning agents, namely the food, ahara, chitta, udu, weather conditions. For instance, due to the mind, due to the condition of the mind, we say the mood, like the mood, your mind is the condition to change your materiality, your body. When your mind is fresh, then your body becomes fresh. When your mind is not fresh, body is not fresh. When your mind is weak, depressed, for instance, then your mind is very weak. Your body will be very weak and not strong enough. So it becomes evident that all these things, there are causes in the past, and you can infer, make a deduction, draw a deduction from the present case, how the things are conditioned by this. The body is conditioned by food, mind, and the weather conditions. For instance, due to these weather conditions, udu, heat and cold, because of the weather, there is change in your body. Your body sweats because it's hot. Hot weather is very hot, and your body feels cold because of the cold weather. So the changes which take place in your body because of the influence of the external weather becomes evident. You are conditioned by the weather. So in this way, every being is conditioned by the weather conditions, and there is no creator behind that. There is only the weather which is the causative agent, which is causing it. And it is also obvious that food also can influence your body or materiality. When you have good food, when you take food, then you become healthy, strong, fresh. If you don't take food, you fast, then you feel hungry and weak. It's quite obvious. So there's no such thing as an omnipotent being which is creating these things, how the mind body happens as they happen. So only when you are able to be mindful at the moment of this arising, you come to see the influences, the conditions of these things, such as the mind, food and weather. So there is this cause and effect relationship which can be clarified in the course of the practice and their relevancy. That's why you are exhorted to note at the very moment of arising. Just like the formula that we discussed yesterday, the formula for working is given by the math teacher, and it's up to the student to work out the answer. Because of this past cause, there is this results in the form of the mind and body psychophysical phenomena. Just look at the yogis. Buddha has given the instruction to note every arising with the method of Satipatthana, and if you are not mindful, you will not become aware, you will not know. Only when you know, you will know. If you don't know, you will not know. Not knowing, just simple unknowing, there will be misconception, knowing wrongly. Such as what happens or exists on the mind, body and their conditionality. But what you may be thinking is there is something like a living entity or abiding core, or the existence of person, being, man, woman, you, I, and so on, especially Atta, self or soul, or creator, creating something. If you are not mindful, you will not become aware. You will know wrongly. If you know wrongly, if you know rightly, then you will take things as pleasurable. Then you will crave for these pleasurable objects. From craving, there will be clinging. Clinging in two ways: sensuous clinging, clinging with sensuousness, clinging because of the craving, clinging by craving desirable objects, and clinging, view clinging, clinging by way of wrong views, that this is Atta, I, who is wanting, and the one who is wanting is I, you, and so on. So in this way there are two kinds of clinging: sensuous clinging and view clinging. And while you are clinging in this way, if your attention is right, if you have right attention, right attitude, then you will be conducting your physical, verbal, mental behaviors in a pure way. If you don't have the right attention, if you are not attending correctly or rightly, then all these behaviors will become impure. Then this will give these are the coming effects, karma, actions. You are performing actions, whether they're pure, impure, or impure. These physical, verbal, mental actions are called karma, which becomes the cause for next becoming. So you come to know these things in the course of the practice, very in a clear manner. For those who are very respectful, for those who are dedicated, they are bound to come to realize this cause and effect. And if you don't note, you will not know. Only when you note, you will know. You will know. If you don't note, you will not know. Not only simple unknowing, there will be wrong perception, wrongly knowing, wrong conception, and which will lead to craving and clinging, which is quite obvious. So for those who are dedicated to the practice of mindfulness, coming to realize this cause and effect relationship, because of this there are many causes and there are many effects that are relevant, and if they know like this, they can also deduce infer that through the knowledge of Anvaya or Anumana, with inferential knowledge, that in the past also this must have happened, namely this conditionality, the cause-effect process must have happened in the past. And as much as it happened in the past and the present, it will happen also in the future, so long as this mind-body process go on, continuing until one attains the final peace and happiness. As much as it happens, there exists this cause-effect relationship in oneself, such process also will happen in others. That is how you come to a deduction, inferential knowledge. Others include these so-called Supreme Being Brahma, or King of Devas, or Devas whom some hold with in high esteem, that they are very powerful, more powerful than us and all this sort of thing. In fact, they are no different from us. They are like us, like everybody else. So there's no more powerful being that we have been esteeming. They are also subject to this cause and effect relationship. So these Brahmas and King of Devas and Devas, we have esteemed them, that they are very powerful. Sometimes we worship them, we pay homage to them, pay respect to them, and in fact they are also made up of mind and body, cause and effect, just like any of us, mind and body, just like physical phenomena. Because of their good deeds, in the past good deeds, and they're existing in the higher plane. But in fact their mind and body are subject to impermanence and so on. So being able to activate mindfulness as regards the mind and body in oneself, one comes to realize this. As the saying goes, that only when you are at the very moment will you see sabhava, the unique characteristics, such as seeing at the very moment means at the very moment of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, bending, stretching, rising, falling, lifting, moving, pleasing. And as you go on practicing this mindfulness, first you will come to discern mind and body. Then you come to discern cause and effect, conditionality. Conditionality also comes under mind and body, so that you become clear of doubts and uncertainty, because you are seeing the realities as they exist. If you are not aware of these realities, then you are said to be shrouded in darkness or hindered by ignorance. So there will be doubts. Now there is no doubts and no uncertainties. You are clear, because you see the realities, and you are able to differentiate one from another. So that if there is a wrong belief, then there will be distorted consciousness. Then one will not be able to differentiate one from another. Now you are free from such things. And to do that, you are noting to become aware of the realities. If you are able to see meticulously and very carefully, then you will be clear of doubts, so that there will be no wrong view, there will be a right view, and there will be right consciousness. And this is the real knowledge. With a continued practice, you come to see the sabhava, that is cause-effect relationship, the unique characteristics. Only when you see the unique characteristics or individual characteristics that we have discussed, will you come to see the sankata lakkhana, the characteristic in 3 modes of time. That is, these psychophysical phenomena which are subject to conditionality have 3 modes of time: genesis, aging, and dissolution, or beginning, middle, and end. And of course they are not the real paramatthas, real ultimates. They are just given as ultimate unavoidable manner. They're not the real paramatta. They're not the real ultimates. What is real paramatta ultimate is what arises, what is seen directly. So when you are mindful, you see first the beginning of the object, and then the object ends, the end of the object. So that only when you see in this way the three modes, in terms of the three modes of time of this psychophysical phenomena, you will come to see samanya, universal or common characteristics. So from sabhava lakkhana to sankata, from sankata to samanya. So if you are able to grasp that object as it arises, and seeing the three modes, that is the beginning, middle and the end, and then the old giving place to the new and its impermanent nature and the universal marks of existence, that is the samanya lakkhana, common or universal characteristics. Only then you are said to be cutting through to insight knowledge, Vipassana jnana. At this point, sometimes misunderstanding. The instruction is to note the obvious object, or the object which arises obviously. So instead of noting the object of attention, the real object of attention, you may be looking after or going after this, where it begins, where is the middle, and where is the end of that object. Such characteristics are not to be noted, not to be followed, not to be noted. They are, this beginning, middle and end, kala paññati. That's time concept only. We're just limiting that this object is subject to the genesis, aging and dissolution. Their beginning, they just begin, and then the middle and the end. It's just giving some limitation or restriction, not to be noted. This is not to be looked for, not the one you should look for. You should not look for where it begins, where the middle, and where the end. And there is misunderstanding some of the yogis. And so this is not to be. This is a little misunderstanding. What is to be noted is the arisen object as it starts up. Object starts and begins immediately, flashing up, then it ends. See, immediately, instantly. There's a time factor in it. It is limited by time, 3 modes of time actually. And what should be noted is the real sabhava, you may call it sensations, or the real objects we call sabhava. So not to go after where it begins and where it ends or where is the middle. Not so. You are just to note as it arises and as it ends. Just to be aware of that. Not to look for the beginning, the middle and the end. I hope. So this, due to this relevant cause, there are this rising and falling. It begins to rise. This is sabhava. You have to note, to grasp the object, not to miss it, so that as it rises, that because it comes and goes, it rises and vanishes, disappears. So you come to know definitely that it comes into being and it goes away. Such kind of awareness or knowledge is known as anicca anupassana jnana, knowledge of the contemplation of impermanence. In the course of practice, you come to this definite understanding, such as anicca anupassana jnana. So some yogis tend to report that yogis were very careful in the practice, that they are able to observe these objects in segments, one after another. One with microscopic, attention, they see these segments, segment-wise, of these tiny objects coming and going. In a very clear-cut manner. Such is seeing or attaining, coming to know the anicca vipassana jnana, coming to realize this knowledge of the contemplation of impermanence. That is vipassana, seeing the impermanent nature, that things come and go. This is insight knowledge. So this seeing the arising and passing away, coming and going, all giving place to the new, such knowledge is known as anicca vipassana jnana, a knowledge of the contemplation of impermanence. And such knowledge arises not from hearsay or from thoughts, imaginations or fantasies, nor from the teachers or books. This is through direct experience. Because you note by yourself, you discover it, observe it by yourself, that things are impermanent. And such is seeing the anicca vipassana jnana. If you see anicca lakkhana, the characteristic of impermanence, you will come to see the unsatisfactory nature or characteristic of the unsatisfactory nature of objects, dukkha lakkhana. Then there will be no atta, no view of atta. You will not hold the view of atta, self or soul. And there is no atta in this mind and body, nor this mind and body themselves are atta. There is only sabhava, that's unique, individual characteristics only. Such is vipassana. Variety of characteristics, such as the cause and condition, causal mode, the all giving place to the new, and the universal marks of existence. Pasata or pasana, seeing. So you are seeing the variety of characteristics in this way. Once you see these universal marks of characteristic, marks of existence, anicca dukkha anatta, and your preceding insight and succeeding insight will not be the same. Your preceding insight and succeeding insight will not be the same. Your preceding insight and succeeding insight will not be the same. Your preceding insight